Did Alex Cora drop the ball big time in the Red Sox loss against the Rays? More on that on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And it's free. So you might as well tune in because Locked On is here for you every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Definitely will be telling you a little bit more about that on today's show, but another frustrating close loss for the Red Sox last night against the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, how many more times do they have to lose a very close game for the strategy to change and how they go about late games when it's close to be able to close it out? Now, granted, there were certain things that were out of Alex Cora's control, but did he drop the ball in that game last night? Going to be discussing that on today's show, as well as the biggest news among Red Sox Nation, prospect Roman Anthony making his Red Sox debut. What is it about his game that makes him so special? Going to be talking a little bit about that, and how do the Red Sox handle the outfield situation moving forward now that Roman is here? But he did make his debut in a game that ended up turning out to be very frustrating for the Red Sox, a game in which they fell 10-8 in 11 innings. And what was even more frustrating about it was that Brayan Bello pitched a really good game. He threw 6 1/3 innings, giving up 7 hits and 3 earned runs with 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. He threw 55 strikes over 82 pitches. His changeup sinker combo was working really well for him. And with how hit or miss Bello has been so far this season, it was definitely good to see him, for one, provide length, because he hasn't been able to provide length in a lot of his starts so far over the course of this season. And for two, be able to identify a combination of pitchers that works for him, that he is seeing really well, and be able to run with those pitches. So I really liked what I saw from Bello, and the fact that he was able to pitch into the 7th inning. You should be able to win a game when your starter goes that deep into it. And the Red Sox could not get their offense going for the majority of the game. They ended up with a total of 10 hits in the game and 8 runs, but it did go extra innings, so keep that in mind. In the late innings, the Rays and the Red Sox were going back and forth. The Rays would take a lead, and then the Red Sox would come back and answer the call and score themselves to tie the game again. Now, the problem with that is that obviously you can't rely on your offense to continue to come from behind all the time. And we've seen games like this before where the Red Sox have consistently inning to inning had a situation in which they were down and they came back to tie that game, but then they ended up losing the game. And that's the situation that happened here. And you can't have that happen. You need to be able to have a lead and maintain it. And Brennan Bernardino came in and pitched in the game. It was not his night. He threw just a third of an inning, giving up 2 hits and 2 earned runs with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. His ERA is now up to a 3.38. I can't really hate on him. It just was not his night. He didn't really have it. And Luis Guerrero threw 2 1/3, giving up 1 hit and 1 earned run with 2 walks. So he definitely wasn't fully in it either and locked in. He threw 23 strikes over 40 total pitches. Guerrero usually has been super reliable for the Red Sox, but the thing was, because he threw so many pitches, he started to struggle towards the end of his time on the mound. And that's where a big issue comes in here, is you have to wonder, what is Alex Cora doing from a management standpoint? Did he keep Guerrero in the game because he didn't want to burn his entire bullpen because it was only the first game of the series? And with the fact that he got length out of Bello, did he want to be able to take advantage of that and not go and feel like he's burning other pitchers unnecessarily? So I truly feel like that was the thought process that Alex Cora had. But Luis Guerrero hasn't really been in situations where he's been expected to throw that many pitches a lot over the course of a stint for the Red Sox, and having him do that in a close game in which the Red Sox very much could win it and it's a winnable game isn't really the time for me to experiment with that. So that was one thing about Alex Cora's managing that I wasn't a fan of, was him saying to Luis Guerrero, okay, we're going to keep you in. And then as a result, Guerrero started to struggle. The Rays started to see him better because he, to me, hasn't been solidified as a multi-inning reliever yet. On the flip side of that, Alex Cora was trying to conserve his pen. That ultimately backfired as well because it went to extra innings and they lost. And he had to use Aroldis Chapman and Zach Kelly as well in that game. So it's going to be interesting to see who's available now for the rest of the series and who's not, because he stretched out Guerrero for so long that I kind of saw Guerrero as a guy who was worthy of pitching in high leverage because he's put together solid performances for this Red Sox team, but now he's no longer available. And if the Red Sox are in another tight game tonight, that's one pitcher that they can't throw in those situations. And they've already been down Justin Slayton with an injury. So their options and high leverage are a little bit limited right now. So that was definitely something that I was questioning a little bit. I could see arguably why Alex Cora did it. I still would not have done it if it were me. Another thing that Alex Cora did that bothered me was refusing to bunt runners over in extra innings. The Rays did it and they got runners to second and third with one out, and ultimately it worked for them. It led to them scoring 2 runs in the top of the 11th inning, and then ultimately they ended up winning the game. Obviously the Red Sox defense didn't help with that very much either, but if you bunt the runners over, because you already have the ghost runner on second base to start the inning. So because you have the runner on second base to start the inning, regardless of if the first hitter in the inning gets on or not, you should still be placing a bunt down to get the runner over to third, especially if you're down by a run, which in this situation with the Red Sox, they were going into that inning. Was you had a situation in which the Red Sox in the bottom of the 10th inning were down by 1 run because they had given up in the top of the 10th inning, courtesy of Aroldis Chapman, the go-ahead run on a sacrifice fly. So the Red Sox go into the bottom of the 10th inning and decide they're not going to bunt the runner over to third. And on one hand, I get where Alex Cora is coming from, as he's playing to win, not to tie the game, but you need to score 1 run to score 2, and you need to score 1 run at least to stay in the game and survive another inning. But Alex Cora, for some reason, was just trusting everybody to go up there and swing. And in the bottom of the 11th, same scenario. You could have bunted runners over. Christian Campbell came up to the plate, and they could have had him bunt, but they didn't, and he failed to come through. And when the Rays did the sacrifice bunt, they had already gotten the first runner of the inning on base, and maybe Alex Cora in that scenario would have done it, but I don't feel confident that he would have. I still feel like he doesn't like to bunt for whatever reason, and it cost the Red Sox a game. And I'd like to really know why he's afraid to play small ball in that capacity. You just want to get runs on the board, especially if you're down by 1 run in a game that really feels like you needed to win to get a winning streak going. And he refuses to do that, puts too much trust in certain players, and it backfired. Also, lastly, the thing that Alex Cora did that I wasn't a fan of was when he had David Hamilton pinch hit for Connor Wong in the late innings instead of having Narvaez pinch it, because Carlos Narvaez had to come in to catch anyway. And you have David Hamilton, who for one at the plate was way less likely to come through than Carlos Narvaez, who's been red hot at the plate. And sure enough, Hamilton couldn't come through offensively. But because you had Hamilton hit in that spot, but then you had to have Narvaez replace him because he had to catch, then they're looking at a situation where you lose David Hamilton as a potential pinch runner if somebody gets on base. Obviously, the Red Sox ended up scoring in the 9th inning after that with a lot of luck and mistakes by the Rays too. So it luckily for Cora ended up working out, but in extra innings, it would be nice to have somebody like David Hamilton available to pinch run. So I was a little bit confused by the decision to have Hamilton pinch it instead of just going right to Narvaez and having him pinch hit right away, so that right from the get-go, you have a guy in there replacing Connor Wong who has been effective at the plate, and you still have David Hamilton in case you need a pinch runner. So some questionable management decisions by Alex Cora in this game. Did it cost them the game? Not fully. Some defensive miscues that they made as well. Lots of things that the Red Sox were doing that they were unable to do successfully, like couldn't maintain leads. And if they tied the game, they would immediately give up the lead again. So lots of issues with this game, but certain things Alex Cora did that certainly were not great. And coming up, though, I'm going to be talking about a rookie who made his MLB debut in dramatic fashion for the Red Sox last night. If you're looking for good supplies, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the place for you. It's funny because my cousin is in that type of industry, and ever since I told him about it, he's on their website every day looking at their inventory, which is a complete list of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, and you have anything you can imagine to choose from to help you with those types of fields because you use a lot of different products for those types of jobs. And Supply House is an easy to use website that can help you find the right tools that you need for your specific job. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. I'm telling you, it will come in handy for you 100%. So the Red Sox lost a frustrating game against the Tampa Bay Rays last night in what felt like it could have been a winnable game. And the biggest thing for me was that Alex Cora did make some decisions that I didn't quite understand, like pinch hitting David Hamilton for Connor Wong instead of Carlos Narvaez pinch hitting and losing David Hamilton as a pinch runner in the late innings. And I don't know if Alex Cora just trusted that the offense would score and that they wouldn't go to extra innings, so it wouldn't have mattered and they wouldn't have needed a pinch runner. But I do feel like Alex Cora makes that mistake sometimes of trusting his offense a little bit too much. And yes, they had been hitting over the last few nights against the Yankees, but because of the inconsistency that we've seen from this offense, I'm not trusting them 100% in those situations. And I'm putting them in situations where they can be set up to play effective small ball if needed. And you have a guy who's a prime base stealer in David Hamilton, who was no longer available because they wasted him on a pinch hit that should have been Narvaez. So that was definitely a questionable decision that Alex Cora made, along with refusing to bunt guys over in extra innings, because if you're down by 1 run, especially in the bottom of the 10th when it was a 1-run game, the thing that made the most sense to do would have been to bunt over the ghost runner so they get to third base. So then all the next batter has to do is put the ball in play and boom, it's a tie game again. But he didn't do that. He was trying to play to win, which again, I get, but you need to score the tying run to have the chance to score the winning one. So I didn't like certain things that Alex Cora did, including the way late in the game that he handled prospect Roman Anthony, the number 1 prospect in Major League Baseball, who made his debut for the Red Sox last night. He got called up due to Wilyer Abreu being placed on the injured list. So it wasn't exactly because the Red Sox said, okay, he's ready to go, we're going to call him up. Nope, it was because they needed him because of an injury to Wilyer Abreu, who's suffering a minor oblique strain right now. So they just needed another outfielder. It was kind of like the reason they brought up Marcelo Meyer was because of Alex Bregman being hurt. So the way that they justified bringing these kids up, I don't necessarily agree with, but hey, it got them here, and that's what matters. And people are so excited about Roman Anthony, who has been crushing it. He is the top prospect in baseball. Who exactly is this kid? His name is Roman Joseph Anthony, and the Red Sox drafted him in the 2nd round of the 2022 draft via a pick that they earned as compensation for losing Eduardo Rodriguez in free agency. So shout out to Erod for getting us this kid. He came out of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and he was also somebody who always was notable as a kid who was standout for baseball. And when he was younger, people were really familiar with him when he was at the high school level. Arguably, he was the best high schooler in Florida as a senior when he hit .520 with 10 homers and committed to playing baseball at Ole Miss. A $2.5 million signing bonus from the Red Sox convinced him to go pro, though, instead, which obviously I don't blame him. But yeah, really notable as one of the best players in the sport, even when he was in high school. Entering his first full season of pro ball in 2023, he didn't appear on a single top 100 prospect list. In Baseball America's preseason rankings, he was judged as the 8th best prospect in the Red Sox organization. And then on SoxProspects.com, he began the year outside the top 10 at number 11. But just 3.5 months later, he had established himself as the hottest prospect in the game, climbing up 3 minor league levels and cracking Baseball Prospectus's top 10 list by mid-July. It was such a meteoric rise, almost unheard of, and it was reminiscent of Mookie Betts. And by the end of the 2024 season, he was the consensus top prospect in all of baseball because of how much he was crushing it in the minors and how quickly he worked his way up. Now, obviously, him being an outfielder makes things a little bit complicated for the Red Sox, but he's undoubtedly the type of player who will provide a lot for this Red Sox team. He has a lot of speed and is strong enough of an arm to play all 3 outfield positions, but he truly isn't left fielder. That is the position that he will likely end up playing in Boston. Over the course of the 93 games he played in AAA, he hit 13 homers with 21 doubles, slashing a batting average of .309 with a .438 on base percentage and .501 slugging. And many of those home runs were absolute moon shots, with one of them being potentially the single biggest homer ever hit in the StatCast era in either the majors or the minors, a 497-foot grand slam, which he crushed the other day with the Woo Sox. And because that happened, it made it pretty much impossible for the Red Sox not to have the conversation about calling him up. So he has power. He has fantastic swing selections, which is something that Woo Sox manager Chad Tracy told me about Roman Anthony. So take a listen to that clip when I asked him what aspects does he bring that will translate to the majors. What is it about his game that, you think works so well that's going to translate for him when he gets called up to the majors?
His swing decisions, his ability to swing at the right ones and not swing at the wrong ones. That's probably, the obvious one is like the power and the ability to like miss hit a ball and fly out to the warning track and all that's great, right? But his ability to like decide what to, regardless if he's facing a righty or a lefty, really tough lefty, and his ability to like check off pitches and just spit on him and take his walk, that piece is what's going to make him. I've said that to somebody before a couple weeks ago. It's not all that power, all the cool stuff. It's the way he manages an at bat and what he decides to swing at. That's what's going to translate.
So as you just heard from Chad Tracy, Roman Anthony has exceptional swing selection and an ability to lay off pitches that he shouldn't be swinging at. His plate discipline is something that's going to get him very far at the major league level, and it's something you, as a Red Sox fan, should look forward to seeing from him to go along with that natural and raw power that he has, that he brings to the plate. Now, in his Red Sox debut, he did end up going 0 for 4 with a walk and an RBI. So he did record his first major league RBI, and he did have a strikeout in the mix, as well as he did make an error in the field, which people were giving him a really hard time about. He just had poor footwork on a routine skidding ball, allowing it to get past him. But keep in mind, first of all, this season in the minors, he only started 4 games in right field, and only 17% of his career starts in the minors have been in that spot. And that is where the Red Sox put him in last night's game. So first of all, lack of experience, obviously, is part of that. And also, it was his major league debut. He had such a long day with an absolute whirlwind of finding out, hey, by the way, you're getting called up to the majors. So he had to scurry his way from Worcester to Boston, an absolute whirlwind of emotions, probably his phone blowing up with text saying congratulations and him trying to contact his family. And then, by the way, you're playing in tonight's game in right field, a position you aren't as familiar with in the professional world. So he goes out there, plays right field. He is not used to Fenway Park. He's not used to that environment, and he's getting used to that big of a stage. So lots of things going through that kid's head. So please cut him some slack. It was his debut, and he deserves to be given more of a shot before people draw some kind of conclusion that he is not going to be good for this team. So make sure to keep that in mind moving forward when you're watching Roman Anthony. Every rookie needs time to adjust to playing in the majors because it's a whole new ball game, and that's something that Roman Anthony was experiencing. So although he didn't do a whole lot at the plate and he did fumble it in the field, hopefully it only goes up from here, because that was just his first taste into playing at the major league level. But coming up, I'm going to be continuing to discuss Roman Anthony, as well as talking about How does this affect the outfield moving forward? It can be really scary when you have no idea where your money's going or what you're even paying for. And I realized that recently. I went into my bank account and I felt like I should have had more money in it than I did, but I found out I was paying for a couple subscriptions I didn't even know I was paying for. So then I turned to Monarch Money, which really is helping me to budget. It's not just a budgeting app, it's actually a complete financial command center. It helps you track all of your accounts and spending in one place so that you make sure you're actually saving money and not just continuing to spend it on anything. And it really helps you to be more careful with your finances. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. It's been an absolute lifesaver for me because I've been able to really keep track of where my money is going. So definitely make sure that you take advantage of that as well. So the Red Sox lost against the Tampa Bay Rays last night in the series opener. Hopefully they can still win this series and salvage the next two games. But Roman Anthony caused a lot of buzz among Red Sox Nation last night because he came up and made his Red Sox debut. And that's super exciting for people because he's been so highly anticipated because of the fact that he's the top prospect in baseball. He was absolutely crushing it in AAA. So Red Sox fans really wanted to see him, and they got him. So he made his debut last night and obviously didn't make a whole lot of an impact. So he went 0 for 4 with a strikeout, but he did have an RBI in the game and he did make an error in the field. People were hoping to see more from him, but like I just said, it was his debut. He was overwhelmed with emotions and probably wasn't in the best headspace. And he was getting so used to the fact that he's a Major League Baseball player and he's not used to that environment at Fenway. So just lots of things that could have been overwhelming to a kid like that. So definitely cut him some slack. He really likes to learn. And I actually spoke with him multiple times in Worcester, and every single day he just approached it with looking for new ways to improve his game and how can I learn today and what can I do to continue to improve on a daily basis. And one of my conversations that I had with him was actually right before the season started, and I asked what he's looking forward to this season and what he's hoping to work on the most. Take a listen to that. Could you just talk quickly about how you're feeling about this season? You had a really good spring, and what does that mean for your confidence going into this season?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be with these guys. We got a great team here for the time being. So just excited to get back into playing every day and into a daily routine.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I know. It feels good having baseball back for sure. What would you say are kind of your biggest goals heading into this season when it comes to what you want to work on to get yourself up to the majors?
I think just, every aspect of my game. I don't really set expectations on myself going into the year, but just to learn from the guys around me. There's a lot of experience in this clubhouse and a lot of guys with big league time and a lot more experience than myself, so just to learn.
So as you could probably tell from that clip, Roman Anthony is just determined to continue to work hard, determined to be the best player that he can be, continue to learn from people who have been around this game longer than he has. And that's the attitude you want out of the top prospect in baseball, out of a kid who is making his debut and you see being part of your organization long term. And that's another big thing too, is being the top prospect in baseball. There's so much more pressure on you than there is on other prospects. Everybody's talking about you. You are expected to go up and perform. So that's definitely something that's in the back of his head when he's playing now is I can't disappoint anybody because so many people see me as this highly regarded player. And while that probably helps fuel him, it also has to be nerve-wracking, especially when you're making your debut at Fenway Park. So lots of aspects of last night that impacted his performance. I'm excited to see him continue to grow into his role with his Boston Red Sox team. Which, speaking of his role, what does this mean for the outfield moving forward? Because Wilyer Abreu's injury doesn't seem to be too severe, and he might not miss a lot of time. Initially, the Red Sox were only hoping he would miss a couple of days, but then the more that was revealed about his injury, the more they kind of realized, okay, this might take longer than we think for him to recover. But even still, they don't anticipate him being out for an extended period of time. So then what's going to happen when he's ready to come back? Because it doesn't really feel like you call up the top prospect in the sport only to send him back down a couple weeks later. Do you know how much of an uproar Red Sox Nation would be in if that were the case? So that's where it's an interesting scenario that comes into play here, because you have Wilyer Abreu, who's going to come back at some point, and then you're back to having that crowded outfield situation. Do the Red Sox look into making a trade now? My guess would be if they do try to trade an outfielder, that they would probably look into trading Abreu. So do they look into trading him now while he's hurt, because of the fact that he has been pretty good for this Red Sox team, especially really good defensively, and also has had his offensive contributions that have been solid as well? Do they try to move him now so that way then when he's healthy, he's going elsewhere, because the Red Sox now have a spot for Roman Anthony, so they want to make sure that they keep that spot for him? Or do they hold off and then they are left with all of these outfielders and have to figure out what to do? Because obviously movement would be involved. They actually DFA'd Ryan Noda, who was down in Worcester, in order to make room on the 40-man roster for Roman Anthony when he came up. So a roster move of some kind would have to be made when Wilyer Abreu comes back. And what that move is still yet to be determined. Do they move Cedar Rafaela into a different role that's more utility? Do they take some playing time away from Christian Campbell, send him back down to AAA to work on things, and have Rafaela play in the infield? This poses a lot of questions, and not to mention the fact that Masataka Yoshida, who the Red Sox haven't really talked about much at all, is still recovering from an injury too. So then what's going to happen then when he comes back? So there's lots to think about right now when it comes to the Red Sox current outfield situation. In reality, at the end of the day, I think Craig Breslow dropped the ball a little bit by not trading one of these outfielders in the offseason. Because yes, I know you wanted to feel like you had this trio that was sustainable in the outfield, but Rob Refsnyder is also there and could have served as a serviceable outfielder until Roman Anthony was ready. But I think the problem Craig Breslow had was that he didn't want to take the chance on waiting around for Roman Anthony when he had 3 established outfielders that he knew he could trust to play out there. So obviously it's a complicated situation because the timing wasn't quite right. The Red Sox didn't want to call up Roman Anthony to start the season, and now he's here. And with all of the spotlight that he's gotten and all of the excitement surrounding him having made his major league debut, now the Red Sox are sitting here like, okay, what are we supposed to do now when we get Wilyer Abreu back? Do we trade somebody, or do we keep everybody around and switch people's roles? So there's going to have to be some movement. I do anticipate that a trade is probably going to happen at some point. I don't know about right now or closer to the deadline, but if they want to keep Roman Anthony in the lineup, they are going to have to make sure that they know which outfielder they would be willing to part ways with the most. And if they want to cut back on somebody's playing time, who would it be? I think Rafaela makes a lot of sense, especially from an offensive standpoint, because he doesn't provide as much value offensively as I think the Red Sox would want him to, but he's also super versatile in terms of his speed and his defense, so it's hard to justify losing playing time for him. And so it's a hard situation for the Red Sox to be in. I anticipate that they're going to make some kind of move. I don't think Roman Anthony is going to be sent back down to AAA because they know how bad that would look for the organization if that were to be the case. So I do think that ultimately he's here to stay, but they need to help build up his confidence. For example, late in the game last night, the Red Sox brought in Rob Refsnyder to pinch hit for him because there was a lefty on the mound for the Rays, which, yeah, I get that Alex Cora likes the matchup of Rob Refsnyder being out there against lefties because in his career, he has hit lefties really well. But that lefty from the Rays was recently called up as well. I mean, he was in the minors with Roman Anthony not too long ago either. So that's another person who could have been just as nervous as Roman Anthony. So why not give him the shot to hit there? I just feel like it's hard to build up a player's confidence if you're not letting them hit in those types of situations. And the Red Sox, for whatever reason, have been holding back when it comes to letting their rookies even hit against lefties because Marcelo Meyer hasn't really been in the lineup a lot of days when there is a lefty pitching. So how do these kids get better if they're not put in the scenario of hitting against lefties? So obviously I understand from a logistical standpoint that the move makes sense to put in Refsnyder because he is the lefty killer. But I want to see Roman's confidence go up, and you need to put him in situations that allow him the possibility to get better, because if he's finding more success in areas that may be weaker in his game, then now he's feeling good because he's saying, okay, I'm growing in the areas that I felt like I needed to grow in the most. So hopefully the Red Sox can handle Roman Anthony a little bit different moving forward, and hopefully the Red Sox can pick up 2 wins in this series, because it would be great to win another series, because it's been hard for the Red Sox to win back-to-back series or maintain any sort of momentum. So we'll have to see how that plays out. We'll have to see how the outfield plays out, because they're in a situation where they are overcrowded in the outfield, which we knew might happen when Roman got called up. So now the Red Sox have some things to figure out. Let's hope they do. But I appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is great because it really reviews every game from that night and what has gone on. So rather than feeling like you missed out on your baseball catch up, this is the show for you. Subscribe on YouTube or any other podcast platform. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.